The other day, US President Trump did something crazy. He demanded that Anthropic, the owner of Claude, one of the world's most advanced artificial intelligences, be removed from all federal agencies. He didn't forget to call them leftist lunatics while announcing this. Do we know how something like this happened all of a sudden? Or did he really decide it after seeing it in a dream at night? Not so long ago in June, he was seen as the golden goose. In fact, he had received all the praise as the mastermind of the Maduro operation. How did he come to be declared a traitor to the country in less than a year? After Trump's statement, the Secretary of War tweeted that they would do what was necessary. Hold on a minute, since when did the Department of Defense become the Department of War? Or was it the Department of War that became the Department of Defense? I'll get to that, but we'll have to go back about 80 years. Defense Minister Hegseth believes that artificial intelligence needs to be purified. If you're wondering why it needs to be purged, the answer is from the woke culture. Yes, the minister finds woke ideologies to be contaminating for artificial intelligence. Is this event aimed at cleansing ideologies, or is the US trying to link artificial intelligence to a killing network? You can simply view this as the banning of one company and return to your ignorant and happy life. Or we can muster the courage, endure the agony of knowing, and together look behind the scenes of how America brought Silicon Valley to its knees. If you're ready, let's begin. I'm going to take you back in time a little. In June 2024, Anthropic and DOW signed a $200 million deal. How does $200 million sound? Don't think of it as such a large sum of money, because Anthropic's annual revenue can reach a whopping $14 billion, so it pales in comparison to Anthropic. And now you will say, is this company crazy to make a deal for such a small amount of money? You're right. The point you're missing is that what's important in this deal isn't its value, but its prestige. Imagine, Claude became the first AI model in the US capable of accessing secret networks. Besides the profit, who cares about the deal money? Let me explain what it's like to access private networks. You may remember the US's covert operation against Maduro. Yes, it was a secret at first, but when their predictions proved correct, they proudly announced it. Claude was actively involved in the planning and intelligence analysis of this operation. The Wall Street Journal reported that Claude was used through the Palantir platform, but that's not all. Intelligence agencies like the CIA and NSA, which are among the most sensitive institutions of the state, used Claude for data analysis. His buddy Elon achieved superhuman data speeds by integrating Claude into the famous Starshield project. In other words, cloud computing had become the heart of the government. So how did the state end up having to tear out its own heart with its own hands? Now let's take a closer look. For years, America presented itself on the international stage as the protector of peace. The best example of this is that in 1947, when the Cold War began, they changed the name of the Department of War to the Department of Defense to make it appear more peaceful and inclusive. I say introduced because they are now showing signs of abandoning that philosophy. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, shortly after taking office, he announced the replacement of the Department of Defense with the Department of War through the Restoring the Warrior ethos circular. Their slogan is, "We represent war, not defense." They are making their intentions clear. They combine these philosophies with artificial intelligence by declaring the 2026 National Defense AI Acceleration Strategy. What has this changed? The American military's approach used to be human-centric. Now, humans are inadequate for war. They are now merely approvers or decision makers. Speed is more important than perfection. Pay attention here. This is where the foundation for the conflict with Anthropic is laid, and on top of that, Hegseth Anthropic CEO Amodei gave them an ultimatum during their meeting. He gave them a deadline to remove the security barriers. He said to purge artificial intelligence of woke ideologies and that the military should use it as it sees fit within the framework of the Constitution. All these demands, and especially unlimited usage, backfired on Anthropic. Despite the pressure, they refused. So what happened next? Trump's ban and supply chain risk. Does this look familiar? Which companies have been subjected to such treatment before? Let's go to 2018. ZTE is a company I could describe to you as Huawei's little brother. It sold products containing American chips to Iran and North Korea, which are under embargo. The US identified them, and ZTE said those responsible would be punished, but they lied. In 2018, Trump banned the buying and selling of parts for 7 years. ZTE couldn't get licenses, couldn't sell parts, its shares were frozen, it was completely paralyzed. Kaspersky Lab is an antivirus program used by American government agencies. Anthropic is similar in the veins of the state. He was accused of scanning data in US government offices and passing it on to Russian intelligence. It was alleged that hacking tools were stolen from an NSA employee's computer through this program. It was banned in all institutions in 2017. It was completely banned in the US in 2024, and the company withdrew from the country. Did you notice? Now the US is living in a world where they can't completely control the fear of spies within us, thanks to an artificial intelligence. And Big Brother Huawei is the first and biggest example of how to bring a giant down. But whether this giant stayed there, I'll tell you about that in a moment. It was virtually unrivaled in 5G technology, one of the world's greatest technological breakthroughs. The US claimed the devices contained backdoors and were used to eavesdrop on its citizens. They played a big game on it. Meng Wanzhou, the daughter of Huawei's founder, was arrested in Canada on charges of violating Iranian sanctions. In 2019, Trump added Huawei to the entity list. No US company can sell chips, software, or any technology to Huawei without permission. Following this, a series of moves came one after another, as if everyone had been waiting for it. Google revoked the license for Huawei phones, leaving them with no room to maneuver outside of China. US companies like Intel, Qualcomm, and Broadcom have not sold chips to Huawei. TSMC, the world's largest chip manufacturer, stopped producing chips on their behalf under immense pressure. Doesn't he look almost paralyzed? But look what happened afterwards. Huawei said, if they can't give it to us, we'll do it ourselves, and developed their own ecosystem, Harmony OS. Today, it is iOS's biggest competitor in China. In 2023, they announced that they had produced advanced 7nm chips despite US sanctions. They thought they had brought down the giant, but he wasn't the only one to get wounded. US giants Intel and Qualcomm have suffered losses exceeding $33 billion due to losing customers. I know, you're going to say, our topic is Anthropic. Why did you tell us all this? Hold on a minute and consider this. When Anthropic is banned, will it only punish leftist lunatics? Or will the giants of the US face another $33 billion bill? Now let's talk about what happened to his seat after the Anthropic ban. Of course, there are no vacant positions in the government. Seeing the opportunity, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman, agreeing to the all legal uses standard, signed a massive deal with the DOW just hours before the ban was even announced. Suddenly Anthropic became a traitor and OpenAI became a patriot. Okay? When we say let's just get rid of Anthropic all at once, are we supposed to think there won't be any economic consequences? Anthropic has committed to paying Amazon, AWS, and Google Cloud $80 billion by 2029. This isn't money to be thrown away. Furthermore, the revenue-sharing model plays a significant role in this ecosystem. When Anthropic models are sold through Amazon, 50% of the profit goes to Amazon. The following picture emerges. Anthropic's projected revenue for 2026 is $18 billion. Cloud providers received $1.9 billion of this revenue. Amazon, Google, MSFT, will receive. Cloud giants are projected to receive $6.4 billion from revenue sharing by 2027. Anthropic is projected to spend $100 billion on AI training by 2029. Of course, companies that use AI in education will still get their share. You see, when this reciprocal relationship breaks down, it's not just the banned company that loses. Just think, a major investor like Michael Burry has taken a put position on Palantir shares, but not until 2025 it had increased in value by 138%. Is this guy crazy? The reason for this is because, as I mentioned earlier, the Cloud Palantir platform was used in military operations, and now the ties between Cloud and Palantir are being severed with a knife. Naturally, investors are also concerned about the trajectory of the company's relationship with the government. Furthermore, for a company preparing for an IPO with a valuation of $380 billion, experiencing these things is no different than hammering the last nail into its coffin. We've always looked at it from the US perspective. While the US is focused on such a doctrine, what about other countries? You don't think only America is interested in this issue, do you? China, the superpower of Asia and indeed of the world in recent times, has been far from idle in these matters. The Chinese government and the People's Liberation Army, PLA, are determined to make artificial intelligence their military tool. They are doing this not just with artificial intelligence, but by combining humans with artificial intelligence. With their intelligentized warfare strategy, they argue that artificial intelligence is indispensable alongside humans for achieving superiority on the battlefield. Moving a little further the West, the EU is focusing on the concept of sovereign AI. Unlike the US, the EU is proceeding with a doctrine based on human rights in the use of artificial intelligence, while also being aware of the risks of AI. Their main focus is on having complete control over their data, capabilities, and capital. Perhaps the Anthropic crisis will further motivate them to break free from the constraints of private companies. In fact, the US example proves to us that artificial intelligence is no longer just a technical tool, but a political choice. Let me show you how serious this is. It is estimated that removing anthropism from the system will take 6 to 18 months. This is described as an enormous pain in the ass for DOW and involves significant risks in the process. Nevertheless, the state is burning its bridges to absolve itself of what it claims is a violation of its sovereignty. But this isn't a one-sided affair. What will the situation be like for AI companies? How will they position themselves to win? I'll tell you now. They would even agree to bind themselves to the state's killing chain if necessary, because artificial intelligence is no longer just software. Forget nuclear weapons, it's rapidly becoming the deadliest weapon states use to crush one another. I can hear your voice. You might say, hey, what have you done? We thought artificial intelligence was just an algorithm and an investment tool. My advice to you is to continue thinking about this, but also not to overlook the relationship between AI companies and the DOW.